Hello and welcome back to the Tin Barn. I'm Pragmatic Lee, and today's project won't have any machining in it, and this is going to be a little fabrication work. I think most of you have probably seen in some of the other guys' videos a rack to hold little angle grinders in. Today I'm going to use the new brake that I showed in my last video, and also probably the shear that I pointed out in that video, to make a rack to hold these angle grinders. I've got this DeWalt that I've had probably for 5, maybe 6 years. I don't do a lot of grinding, but I do some cleanup work with it and all. Got this DeWalt, and then I got this $15 one from Harbor Freight. I've had this one about 2 years. And as I say, I don't do a lot of grinding, but I've used it without hesitation, and so far it has held up very fine, very good, not had any issues at all with it. As a matter of fact, New Harbor Freight opened up about 15 miles from me. I visited them, and I've picked up 2 more of these angle grinders. They're only $15 a piece, and to me, that's well worth not having to change out the implements on occasion. I think it was Keith Fenner. I'm not sure if it was in one of his videos or response to a comment on one of his videos, but someone asked him about why he had so many angle grinders. And of course, he replied that he had one for each of the type of flap disc, of course, grinding wheels, cut-off disc, and various wire wheels and cut wheels and so forth. And the person, commented something to the effect, well, it doesn't take long to change them out. And his response was, time is money. And I'm sure in a shop like his, it definitely is. That's not necessarily the reason I'm doing it here. This is just a hobby for me. But I do like to be able to go to a tool and pick it up and it be ready to use. And like I say, for $15 a piece, I couldn't pass up getting a few more of these angle grinders, and I'll load some of the common implements that I use on there. But I'm going to make a rack today to hold 4 of them. I've got this little cardboard template that I've cut out. It's going to simply be about 6.5 inches or 6 inches across here. The step back 2.5 inches, and then a 1/2 inch lip on the end. This is not quite the scale, since that would have come out to 12 inches and a piece of paper is only 11 inches. But this is similar to what we're going to do. So let me get the camera positioned around on the bench, and I'm going to show you, or I'll show you the layout we're going to use to make 4 of these. I'm going to use a piece of 12 inch by 12 inch sheet metal to make these 4 holders. What I'll do is 2 belly to belly, then 2 more over here. So I need to lay this out first in 3-inch sections. I'm just going to put a little scribe. Now while I've got that right there, there's going to be a lot of marks on this piece of material for the folds on each end, and also the cut marks. So I'm going to just highlight where the cut marks are to be. I'm just going to put a red line on them and come back and scribe in this red ink. That'll just help this old man keep up with which ones are cut marks and which ones are fold marks. And I believe that marker is about done. All right, now we also need a 6-inch mark through the middle. Be about the capacity of this caliper. And since it is right on the end, double check that that is the center, and it is. All right, now that should give me a good reminder of where the cut marks are. So I'm going to come back to my original scribe that I'm having trouble seeing now. I'll mark these other two out, and then we're going to turn it and mark out for all the folds. All right, so I've got the, not sure that you can even see that on the video, but I've got the 3 lines laid out where the cut will be. And that'll give us 4 pieces. Now, to make this hole, I'm going to make it in pairs, of course. And that should as well be 6 inches from the end. All right, so after I get all the layout done, I will put a hole saw in the mill and drill out or cut out the hole in that. But now let's lay out some lines. This first fold is 1/2 inch from the edge. And these will be perpendicular, of course, to the cut lines. Now this first fold, I'm going to mark on both sides. You'll see when we get over to the break the reason I'm doing that. And again, I'm not sure that y'all can hear it on the video, but my phone is going crazy this morning, so if I stop and start the video all along, I'm not trying to hide anything from you, I'm just trying to answer this phone. Now the second fold, the standoff will be 2.5 inches, so 2.5 plus that 1/2 is of course 3 inches. All right, so I've got all my bend lines laid out and my cut lines and for the holes. So I'm going to get set up on the mill with a hole saw, and we're going to cut these holes first. Then we'll go over to the bandsaw and cut this full long center cut. Then we'll go to the shear and cut this, 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 and this to have 4 pieces. Once we get our 4 pieces, then of course we'll go to the break to lay them out or to do the bends. All right, I got a 2x4 block in the mill vise under here now, setting up on a parallel. Well, it's setting on one before I tighten it down. But I've got it just a place to go through, and I've got it clamped onto here. I don't know, how much this is going to try to sling around when the saw bites into it. But we're going to give this a try. This is a 2.5 inch hole saw. Smoke you're seeing there is from the thing biting into the 2x4. But it's definitely got that metal hot, so let's try slowing down a little more. All right, I've come to a realization that this is one product from Harbor Freight that's not worth your money. This is a set of hole saws supposed to cut metal and wood, but it's not hardly scratching this metal. So let me see what I can find and be right back. All right, that hole saw was just way too dull. I've gone back. I don't have another 2.5 inch. This is a 3 inch. Be fine. Just make the hole a 1/4 inch wider on each side. Okay, cutting a hole is not supposed to be that difficult. I should have stopped to begin with. Got a good saw and a good arbor, which I've gone and done now. I had them in my toolbox. I just got in a hurry. All right, now let's turn it around and see if this second hole won't go a lot simpler. And just like that. All right, we're gonna go over to the bandsaw now. I'll get set up over there. We're gonna make this center cut. All right, I'm over at the Delta Rockwell 14 inch bandsaw. Mr. Pete recently did a series of videos on converting a saw like this that he had to slower speed, and he was talking about there were saws that were made with gearbox in them. This one has a manufacturer's date on it of August 26, 1964. And it actually does have a gearbox in it to slow it down for metal cutting. But I got this out of a trash pile. Literally pulled this out of a dumpster 25, 30 years ago. It came from a community college, and the reason it was being thrown away was the gearbox had gone bad. You couldn't slow it down. So this won't work right now for cutting thick metal. It works fine on sheet metal and wood. One day, hopefully I can do a project on rebuilding the gearbox on this. But for right now, we're just going to use it at the only speed it's got and split this piece down the middle. All right, I'm going to have to get me a light a little closer by. The red mark is keeping me reminded of where I need to cut, but it's also distracting me from the scribe line, so I'll be right back. Okay, I think I can see a little bit better now. I said the gearbox was bad in this, and it is bad, and you may can hear it on the video, but it's actually just pinned right now. So it's like I say, it's got a single speed. All right, I'm going to turn right around back here to the belt sander, knock off some of these sharp edges where the hole saw, especially on that first hole, and knock a little bit of these rough edges off as well. All right, I'm going to go back over to the workbench and take the round file and just, while this is still solid in one piece, and clean those burrs up a little bit, and then we'll go over to the brake and start putting the folds in. I'm around here now at the 8-inch shear, and we're going to cut this right back here at the very back of the jaws. I'll get my scribe line lined up, and up here at the front, get it lined up. All right, so now we're getting closer to having our individual pieces. All right, now before we turn right back to the brake here and start making the folds, I'm going to go back to the workbench and use my hole punch and punch holes, 2 holes in both ends of each one of these. That'll be the mounting holes. It will be easier to do now with them flat than it will be after they're bent. Okay, back over here at the workbench, I've laid out the holes that I'm going to punch here. I've already punched a couple of them, but I've laid them out in there, and I'm going to use this hole punch. This is another reasonably new acquisition here in the 10 born. This is a Capri hole punch. I'm going to be using number 8 screws to mount these to a wood board that'll be put up on the wall. So I'm using a 3/32 punch, and by using my little spring punch to put a indicator or put a starter hole in there, I'm able to pretty much reach around until I find that indentation. And there's 2 things I've learned about this hole punch right here. Number 1, don't hold it up against your belly and squeeze the handles together. When you got as much gut as I've got, it'll pinch it. And number 2, when you're going to set it down like this, don't put your fingers up here. It will mash them. Punches a very nice, clean hole, no burr on the opposite side. So I'm going to do this 2 holes in each end of all 4 of the pieces, and then we'll finally be ready to go over to the brake and do our bends. All right, just another point of information. For this Capri hole punch, you have a punch in this side, in this jaw, and a die over here in this jaw. And I've just realized I was screwing my guide or my die in pretty much all the way. And I've just found if you leave it maybe just flush with that edge here, not screw it in that far, it doesn't take near the amount of leverage you need it up just basically enough to punch through. And that didn't take near the leverage that it did on the earlier one. Obviously, it's going to take a little getting used to. Okay, I'm over here at the 24-inch brake that I showed on the, I think my last video, where I made the modification to it to adjust the setback. We're going to start doing our bends now. So we're going to start with our longest bend. And get it set down, and this is another tool just getting used to. We'll set that down and pull a 90 degree. As I say, I'm just getting used to this tool. That hopefully that's going to be, that was a little bit over 90 degrees. But here's why I marked this 1/2 inch on both sides, because now I want to turn this over and fold in the other direction, or break in the other direction. Now we'll come back, do our other side. And there we have folded up and ready to be mounted on our board. We'll do one more of them right quick. Alright, I'm going to fold the rest of these up. Then I'm going to clean them up some, put a little paint on them, and then I'll bring you back when we get ready to mount these on the board. Okay, while the paint is drying, I'm going to make a couple bushings. These will be mounted with some drywall screws on the top of the board that the brackets will be mounted on. And the purpose of these will be a place to store the various accessories. I'm going to turn this 3/4 inch stock down to 1/2 inch and make probably about 3 pieces that these will slide over. Like I say, on top of the board, then this will slide down over that. I don't have any 1/2 inch stock. 1/2 inch stock would be just right for that. But I'm going to drill these for the drywall screws, and then cut about 3 pieces, I think, 1/2 inch, or turn about 3 pieces down, 1/2 inch, 2 inch long. All right, we're going to check that and see if we do need the other 100 or other 10 thousandths. That's good, just like that. We just want a loose fit that we can slide this over. So I'm going to zero out the x-axis at this point, and that'll be our target from now on. Now before I take that out, I want to put a little counter bore in there for this, for the head on this drywall screw, just to make it look a little neater. If that's a little bit deeper than is necessary, I just don't want any of the head of the screw sticking up. So we'll zero out the Z, come over 2 inches. And I didn't cut enough. All right. We'll turn a little more. Now we'll come in our 2 inches. Lock the carriage down. And that is kind of hot. I'll let that cool off. I'm gonna make 2 more of those. Pull this on out, make 2 more of them, and then we'll take this larger stock that we'll use. Just clean up is all we got to do on that, and we'll make about 3 or 4 of these as well for the flat disc, grinding wheels, cut-off wheels, and so forth. All right, the paint's had time to dry now. The distance between centers of the holes is 6.5 inches. 6 inches here, 1/2 inch on each one, or 1/4 inch on each one for 6.5 inches. I've got some lines laid out, 6.5 inches for each of the 4. I'm spacing the 4 holders 8.5 inches apart. I checked a couple of the grinders side by side with the handles on, and 8.5 inches looked like a good distance to put between them. All right, I'm going to get the other 2 mounted on, then I'll bring you back and show you mounting the post for storing the accessories on. All right, I've got the 4 brackets mounted on our board now. There's 2 tools that will need to be used on a regular basis. One is the 15/16 wrench to add and remove the bolt type or bolt head accessories, and then the spanner wrench to remove the disc. So I'm going to use a couple of these just regular old kitchen cabinet hooks. I'll mount one in between the first 2 brackets, and then another in between these 2 brackets, and that'll be used to hold the wrench, the spanner wrench, and the combination wrench and the spanner wrench. So now on the top, I've got some holes or in spots laid out up here for these little pegs. And I'm going to alternate between the small ones and the larger ones. Now this is going to be mounted on a wall in the tin barn in a section that most of you have not been privy to, but excuse me, but there's a large column over here and one at that end. So there's about 6 inches of open space between the back of this and the wall. And again, these pegs will be used to store the accessories, the smaller ones for the screw-on ones, and the larger ones for the disc, flap wheels, and cutoff wheels. I'm going to get this mounted in place, get the grinders hung up on it, and then I'll carry you over there and we'll do a quick recap. Okay, as I said earlier, this is a section of the tin barn that not many of you have seen before. Over here, this end of the workbench is a doorway that goes into the area you're used to seeing, and down here, this end of the workbench is another doorway that goes in. This is a 16 by 24 section, not a high ceiling, about 8-foot ceiling in here. Still got a gravel floor, but it's used primarily just storage, just throw stuff in. And a lot of it needs to be cleaned up, cleaned out, done away with, organized. And I hope to do that this coming spring. Clean this out and get some of the dirtier items from over there, such as the belt grinders or belt sanders and 2x72 belt grinder and so forth. Get them moved over here because they dirty up that area pretty much. So, but I've got the rack mounted now. Got it up here between these two beams. Got my 4 grinders on. Got a grinding disc here, cutoff wheel there, flap disc here, wire brush there. The pins across the top, again, are used to store the extra accessories. The small pins also work good for when you take the flange nuts off to put the wire accessories on. It's a good place to store them as well. Wrench and the spanner wrench. So I think I'm going to get a lot of enjoyment out of this, or a lot of use out of it. It's got the grinders up out of the way. I've got a close receptacle over here just at the end of it where I can plug them in as I take them down. I'm not going to try to leave them plugged in just simply for the fact cords will get tangled. You take one down, put it back up, take another one down, put it up. So plug them in as I need them. Again, I hope you've enjoyed this video, got something out of it, and we'll see you on the next one.